Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules today for attending today's session on ServiceNow CRM plus Voice AI plus Contact Center. We're going to talk about this new era of customer service. My name is Guillaume. I am the ServiceNow practice lead here at 3C Logic, and I will be your host. So again, thank you for joining and taking time out of your busy schedule. Just a couple sort of ground rules, housekeeping items. Just be mindful of the fact that some of what we might cover or some, not all, but some of what we might be covering is forward-looking or could be forward-looking in nature. Certainly ask that you take that under advisement. If you have any questions, please feel free to add those to the Q&A box, and we will try and address them over the course of this session. But you're always welcome to reach out to us after the fact, and we can have one-on-one discussions as it pertains to some of the questions that may come up over the course of today's session. Speaking of sessions, we have a fantastic agenda for you guys today. This is going to be a relatively short session. We're not going to spend an hour. Our goal is to be in the 20, 30-minute range because we're going to really talk about the high-level view of what you can achieve with ServiceNow and 3C Logic as it pertains to customer support. But before we get into the weeds, we'll take a step back and look at market trends, sort of what is the state of customer experience. Then we'll talk about where the ServiceNow and Contact Center really come together and what's the value proposition there, and what could potentially be the ROI for those of you attending today's session. And then we're going to take a look at a couple of live use cases that we recorded for you. One that's going to look specifically at Voice AI and how it can solve reoccurring, repetitive type questions that may be reaching you in your organization, as well as looking at it from the live agent perspective, real-time transcription. So we'll be looking at both of those in action and giving you a taste of what that looks like in the context of ServiceNow. And then we'll close out with a couple key takeaways. So again, if you have questions over the course of this session, I welcome the opportunity for you to just drop them in the inbox. If we get to them, great. If we don't, we can always connect offline. All right. So speaking of market trends, it's a crazy world out there. 2025 was certainly one for the record books. AI is obviously the keyword of the year. Continues to be as we progress into 2026. So let's take a look at some of the broad trends that are sort of impacting customer experience and some of the things that, from a very high level view, presumably you should be keeping an eye on. First and foremost is this idea around centralization. Historically, when you look at contact center operations, there's been sort of a 50-50 split between organizations that have their agents predominantly working out of their contact center platform, the logic being that that's where the engagements happen and that's where the agents should be operating from. And the other half, looking at it from, where's the data, where's the workflow occurring, predominantly usually in the CRM or CRM-like system, for today's purposes, ServiceNow, and having their agents work there. So there's been this tug of war between those two environments. And if we fast forward to some of the trends, heading into 2026, what's substantially changed is most enterprises have decided, as they look to consolidate their tech stacks and really shrink the number of platforms that they use within their operations, really the pendulum has swung in favor of the CRM. So a lot of organizations are looking to have their agents really work as much as possible, predominantly from that CRM environment, and everything else being an extension of that that workspace. And contact centers are included in that model. At the same time, voice is, I'm not going to say it's making a comeback. Voice has always been a dominant channel in the customer experience world. But arguably, it's been that channel that everyone loves to hate. It's usually, even today, that escalation channel. So when all things go wrong, or if someone has been incapable of self-servicing or finding their own answers, that's typically when a call gets initiated into an organization. Fast forward to today, and voice is really going through a pretty substantial change, obviously impacted by AI. And what's interesting is that AI is expected to actually increase the amount of voice traffic, not lower it. But at the same time, voice as a channel is really poised to live up to the expectations that we as consumers have always had. The ability to have an exchange that is non-deterministic, conversational, pleasant in some cases, while still addressing the underlying intent and need of the caller. So we expect voice to not only remain dominant, it again has never stopped being so, but actually play perhaps a larger role than it has traditionally in the past. At the same time, the question sort of begs, where do live agents fit within this scope? AI has sort of pushed this narrative of, you know, um, deflection, self-service. We don't need people anymore. But if you look at some of the research, regardless of whether or not AI is capable or not, there is still a dominant preference when you survey consumers out there to still have a human in the loop experience, right? So we expect that human interactions are still going to be preferred because they offer the opportunity to be empathetic, to handle complex use cases that perhaps AI is not yet suitable for, and the like. And so that's still something that we expect to remain true this year and moving forward. And then the last big, really foundational pillar here when we look at some of the trends is this obsession around data. Now, data has always been important. No one's debating that, but it's always been fragmented, siloed, and that's really what's affecting the ability to apply AI and allow it to live up to the full potential, or at least the expectations of what AI can deliver. And so, AI is only as powerful as the data and the foundation on which it resides. And so that's why there's this obsession around cleaning up, if you will, the back office so that the front office can operate to its full potential. And data is at the core of that, or at the root of that problem. Now, if we look at sort of what is today's customer experience conundrum, well, interestingly enough, and if we put AI to the side here for a minute, the reality is that customer experience has actually been on the decline. It's actually at a record low when you look at some of the research out there. There was actually a recent report that came out from Forrester that highlights that CX is at its lowest point in over a decade. That almost a quarter of the brands out there are actively, their CX reputation is actually trending downward. And so, interestingly enough, that's really forced enterprises to try and react, if you will. And that reaction has been to sort of look to AI as this silver bullet, right? So you've seen this mass adoption, massive push of AI to quote unquote fix or sort of plug this CX decline issue. And the idea there, of course, is that, if we can help automate things, if customers can self-service better, that'll lower costs, it'll reduce the need for human intervention, and ergo, it will be better. Unfortunately, what's happening is that there's this sort of AI disillusionment, right? There's this execution gap. When AI fails to sort of broker those fixes, you get the exact opposite reaction. So when you look at some of the data silos that are impacting the execution and the implementation of AI projects, you find that when your CRM, your billing, your logistics platforms are not integrated, AI tends to, underperform expectations. And those will typically reveal themselves in the forms of hallucinations, incorrect answers, as well as what you might call a capability ceiling. The idea that, great, it can handle things as simple as a password reset, but when you have more nuanced, multi-step inquiries, things tend to break. And when they do, you get escalations, and escalations go end up hitting that last frontier, battle line, if you will, of live agents who are really trying to make up for that gap. And the issue is when all the simple things have been deflected and solved for and automated, really the only thing that leaves agents is those high valued, very often emotional, complex use cases, right? So if AI fails, typically the person that's going to be that you're going to be speaking to is already in a frustrated state. And so that actually creates an enormous amount of burden on the agents, which is why you see high stress, high turnover. And then there's this agent upskilling issue, right? Agents are still trying to solve problems, using simple scripts, and really the more traditional form of customer experience, and haven't been given the opportunity to really catch up to this AI-driven, era that we find ourselves in. And so you find yourself in this perpetual feedback loop, right? So CX is on the decline. Let's use AI. AI didn't solve my problem. Let's escalate it. Agents are burning out. Hence, CX is still not great. And it keeps going in circles, right? And so the question really becomes not, okay, is AI bad? Is it the solution? Is it not? We think that the jury has already made that decision. So it's really not, the challenge isn't really longer how to use AI, but how can you make sure that the implementation of AI isn't going to break the customer relationships and your brand and what you've built out over time, right? So what is broken, right? Well, I'm sure we could go through a laundry list of different items, but if you take a step back, the reality is it goes back to that foundation that I spoke to earlier, right? So disjointed platforms are creating disconnected interactions and engagements, and it's also limiting the impact of the AI projects and tooling that most enterprises want to implement and put to work, right? So if you're a customer calling in or engaging with an organization, really once it goes over the fence, it feels like a black box, right? And typically that reveals itself in terms of customers calling back about the same issue, feeling as if the experience it doesn't relate to the first time they called, so lack of personalization. Agents in the background are really that human middleware layer that's trying to really overcome all those technical gaps and disconnection points. And ultimately, it's just a broken, foundational model to begin with. And so really, we shouldn't be surprised that these are the types of experiences that we have, or that customer experience with or without AI has been declining, despite the fact that technology has been continuously getting better, right? So if we look at what that foundation should look like, really, if we oversimplify, and again, today we're not trying to boil the ocean and get into too many specific details, so much a look at the big picture, which is first you need that data layer, right? Now, obviously, data can be stored in different places. So how can you aggregate it into one that can then feed a system of action, right? A workflow layer that's going to use that information from different sources and actually, associate them so that you can lead to an outcome, to an action, right? And that's where agentic AI, for example, usually operates. If you have those two foundational layers in place, then all of a sudden you can start affecting experiences. Now, those could be digital experiences, but obviously today we're going to focus predominantly on voice, contact center, because that is the most versatile form of engagement. It's also the most complex one to handle and to do well. Excuse me. And then if you do that well, then you've got everything that has to do with insights, right? Visibility into the quality of the interactions, and then how can that serve as a feedback loop back into that data layer, into that workflow layer, and so forth, right? So instead of having sort of a feedback loop that is, perpetually negative because one issue feeds into another and just continues to go, how can one resolve the other and then, ideally reverse the trend, right? If we put that in the context of ServiceNow and 3C Logic, right? How does ServiceNow CRM together with Voice AI Contact Center, solve for this issue? It looks a little bit like this. You're going to have the Now platform. So if you're an active ServiceNow user today, whether you're using it for IT or employee workflow or customer service management, this is where it all starts, right? And ServiceNow has, always successfully branded itself as the platform of platforms, right? So the ability to connect to multiple systems, but serve and present itself as that single source of truth. So you have a single data model on which you build that workflow layer. So again, I mentioned agentic AI workflows. This is effectively where the work happens. And so as an aggregate, you have this system of record on which you can build experiences. Now, ServiceNow natively already has digital experiences. For example, email, chat, chatbot, knowledge base. And so those, are able to leverage that foundation to deliver those experiences across digital means. What you don't have, and what we're going to focus on today, is how do you also add on that contact center layer, right? So again, voice, we're of the opinion that it's always been an important channel, dominant even before AI, and certainly far more interesting now with it. So how can you layer that into your ServiceNow work stream to affect voice AI experiences as well as live agent experiences with the human agents for those points of escalations that are still required today? So that's your experience layer. And then if all goes well, then you can start worrying about insights. And that's the analytics that can take data from those interactions. So think your call transcriptions that can feed call summarizations. How can all that information, end up in ServiceNow to drive your reporting, your dashboards? If you're using ServiceNow Platform Analytics, for example, how can you ingest how many calls came in? What cases are they associated to? What's the average hold time? The more traditional contact center KPIs, but woven together with some of the other metrics that you already have native on platform. And that can drive workforce optimization, as well as more interesting advanced capabilities like AI-powered quality assurance, right? So think sentiment analysis. What was the quality of the conversations that your agents, virtual or otherwise, have delivered? What can be done better? what was said, what should have been said, and things of that nature. And you have that feedback loop that can serve as a coaching tool, either in how you build your voice AI agents, if that's what you're concerned about, or coaching tool to the agents that you have live on your team. Okay. Now, if we take a look at an example, you know, well, and of course, once you have the platform, then you can layer on AI at every level, right? Everything from the system of action all the way through to your experiences, right? So what does that look like? Well, we've got a couple of examples, as I promised, to kind of help you visualize what some of those experiences would look like. And now we have two of them specifically. One, which is voice AI. So we're going to look at an end-to-end voice self-service use case built on ServiceNow, as well as later on, we'll take a look at a live use case with an agent that implies real-time transcription. So you can see what that experience might look like from a live agent's point of view. Now, for this first use case, we had a little bit of fun, right? So instead of doing a boring use case, we did something a little bit out of the, out of left field. We're going to pretend that we are a customer calling into a restaurant to put in an online order. Now, I'm not suggesting that that's what you would natively use the ServiceNow platform for, but it introduces some unique challenges that you'll see voice AI is very well designed to handle, which is a menu. So if I'm on the phone and I'm not familiar with the menu of said restaurant, it would be less than pleasant to have it list off the 18 different items that are available to me. One, because you're very likely to start forgetting what those items are. And two, no one wants to listen to a laundry list of options that could take a minute or two. It's not a great experience. So how can voice AI make the menu a conversational experience, and allow you to put forth an order while the voice AI agent focuses or leverages the menu option to dictate how to migrate that online order through, from what type of food do you want, what sides would you like, what drink would you like, all the way through the ordering process. So you're going to see and experience what that looks like, and more importantly, we'll showcase towards the end what are the items in ServiceNow that it relied on to facilitate that experience. So with that, let's go ahead and listen through.
Hello, this is Courtney, your demo voice, AI restaurant hostess. You are about to experience how easy it is to place an order with 3C guys, burgers, and fries. I will guide you through our available menu items, promotions, allow you to change your mind, and confirm your order total. Oh, we love our customers so much, we're just going to go ahead and waive those order fees. Can I get your name so we can get started with your order?
Yeah, the name is John.
Thanks, John. We're currently running a special on our double stack burger, only available for a limited time. Our popular items are the classic cheeseburger, bacon BBQ burger, and milkshake. What can I get started for you?
Do you have any veggie burgers?
Yes, we have a veggie garden burger. It features a plant-based patty, avocado, sprouts, and vegan mayo. Would you like to add one to your order?
Yes, please.
Great, that's one veggie garden burger. Would you like to add fries or any other sides to go with that?
What sides or options do you have?
We have French fries, sweet potato fries with chipotle mayo, onion rings, which are thick-cut battered rings, and mozzarella sticks served with marinara. Would you like to add any of these to your order?
Can I have the sweet potato fries, please?
Perfect. That's one veggie garden burger and one order of sweet potato fries. Would you like any drinks or desserts with your meal?
I would love a milkshake.
Excellent choice. Our milkshakes come in vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry. Which flavor would you like?
Chocolate.
Great. So far, your order is one veggie garden burger, one order of sweet potato fries, and one chocolate milkshake. Can I have your phone number to proceed with the delivery details?
Actually, can we
Please provide a
change
10-digit number.
it to a vanilla milkshake instead of chocolate, please?
No problem. I've updated your order to one veggie garden burger, one order of sweet potato fries, and one vanilla milkshake. Now, may I have your phone number to proceed with the delivery details? Please provide a 10-digit number.
Yeah, it's 240-803-4165.
Thank you. Now, please provide your delivery address so we can complete your order.
It's going to be 123 Frank Street.
Just to confirm, your delivery address is 123 Frank Street. and your phone number is 24080346165, correct?
Yep.
I'm placing your order for a veggie garden burger with sweet potato fries and vanilla milkshake for delivery now. Thank you for your order, John. I hope you enjoyed your experience today. To follow up with more information on how you can leverage this fantastic experience for your clients, may I please have your email address?
Yeah, it's info@3clogic.com.
Thank you, John. We appreciate you sharing your email. Have a wonderful day and enjoy your meal from 3C Guys Burgers and Fries. If you need anything else, just give us a call.
Okay, so if we look at the ServiceNow screen here, let's go ahead and refresh things a little bit. And you can see, sure enough, here is the brand new order, 1064, veggie burger, sweet potato fries, a milkshake, which just got put in. I ordered it at the Rockville location. And the beauty of it is all of this stems from a knowledge article that was created. You can see hosted here in ServiceNow. So this is the menu for 3C Guys, so the restaurant that I called into. And here is a relatively basic, just for demonstration purposes, basic menu that the voice AI was referencing. So you can see the burgers, the chicken and sandwiches, the sides, the desserts, the available drinks, and so forth. And you noticed how very quickly it walked me through some of the promotions. It allowed me to change my mind, but it kept to a relatively conversational script with the goal of course, getting through the entire set of required menu options. So what do I want to eat in terms of sandwiches? What are the sides? Do I want any desserts and drinks and so forth? And then, of course, all of that ends up finding its way in the form of an order, in this case, in ServiceNow. So just a short explanation at the end here, showcasing how this was put together. Now, I'm not suggesting, again, to my earlier point, that ServiceNow is optimized for restaurant orders, so much as really using this to showcase how you can take something which to us seems relatively simple, but for an agent could be difficult, which is taking a menu and actually working it into a conversation that leads to an order and treating ServiceNow as that source of truth and also then that system of action, which is putting in the order. And you notice that it had the ability to be interrupted, to change the order, all the while keeping it conversational in a way that mimics very, closely, if not almost exact, how it might be, what the experience might look like if it were a live individual as well. But of course, doing it in a completely self-service environment. Now, you could replace the menu option or restaurant use case to something that is more, relevant to your own industry. But the conceptual components are all there, right? And we're not going to go into how the voice AI agent was built. If you're interested in that, we will have additional, and we already actually have sessions that highlight how the 3C Logic Voice AI Hub allows you to build these experiences together with ServiceNow. Today, we're focusing more on what are the experiences that you can deliver as an example. So if you're interested, by all means, feel free to look at some of our contact or contact us directly to discuss it. But if we go to voice AI in general, what are its applications and uses, right? The reality is the best practice today, and again, emphasis on today, who knows where we'll be in 3 to 6 months' time. Everything is moving at the rate of AI, as the saying goes. The reality is, if you survey most customers, about half will tolerate working with a voice AI agent. Now, maybe it's just a case of adoption over time, but if you look at some of the use cases, that individuals are willing to leverage voice AI as opposed to, escalating to a live agent, here are just a few. And the one I want to draw your attention to is really actually the first one, because you'll notice it's not a self-service use case. Majority of individuals would actually want to see conversational or voice AI to be used to improve their experience, but still to get to the right person. So instead of having that deterministic press 1 for support, press 2, your call is very important to us, just wait in a random queue. Can you use voice AI to actually understand what a person wants? What are the specific skill sets that may be required to solve that inquiry that they're calling about, but they still want to get to someone? So can you create a conversational experience that really ends up modernizing what traditionally we know as an IVR, again, deterministic, and replace it or optimize it with a non-deterministic experience, powered by voice AI? And when I use the term non-deterministic, What I mean by that is if I were to call back in that restaurant hotline, sure, at the end, the use case will be the same in terms of eventually it will take an order, but the way in which she walks through the order, collects my information, and so forth is always going to be ever so different. And again, that's the definition of non-deterministic versus something that will always follow a very static, fixed, a binary experience. Now, some of the other more traditional things that individuals would want voice AI to solve for are things like shipping order confirmations or scheduling or changing an appointment. They're not necessarily looking to solve complex issues through voice AI so much as willing to use it to afford or to offset those more simple things that they'd rather not wait for, but still want a conversational experience when they request a service. Now, let's change gears a little bit. Let's pretend something does have to get escalated to a live agent. So AI can serve and benefit as a tool the agents that are fielding those calls when they do get escalated. And the goal there, of course, is to help the agent deliver a better customer experience, but also take some of the manual steps off their plate. That means time saved, right? Which means a reduction in cost because you can presumably handle more calls per agent. And ideally, it helps reduce the burnout rate because agents aren't swivel chairing between systems and acting as that human middleware that we alluded to earlier. So let's take a look at what the experience might look like if I'm on the receiving end of a call as an agent. The use case here is not related to a restaurant. Instead, it's someone that's going to be calling in looking for a refund. And we're going to go through what that experience looked like. And then I'll take a step back and actually show you what are some of the key attributes that AI was able to power that can help with that experience. So let's take a look.
Hi, thank you for calling customer support. My name's James. I see you're calling about a refund request for an air fryer that wasn't delivered. Sorry you had to deal with that. I'll do my best to get this all sorted out for you today.
Yeah, thanks. I ordered an air fryer, but it never showed up. The tracking says delivered, but I haven't gotten anything. And at this point, I just want my money back.
I completely understand. I'm really sorry that happened. Let's take a look at that order, so I can verify everything and help you with next steps. So could you please provide your order number for confirmation?
AF48291.
All right, thanks. And can you confirm the name on the order as well?
Tony Rice.
All right, perfect. I'm pulling that up now. And okay, I see the order was placed on February 7th and it was for the digital 5-quart air fryer, but you're saying you never actually received the package, correct?
Correct. Nothing has been delivered to me.
All right, thanks for confirming. So in cases like this where the item was never properly delivered, we do need to ask a few questions just to rule out common delivery issues. So did anyone else at your residence accept the delivery?
No, it's just me. Nobody else could have picked it up.
Okay. And have you checked around the property or in any unusual drop-off locations like a side door or mailroom?
Yeah, I've checked all around.
Okay. And have you had a chance to check with neighbors or building management just in case it was left nearby?
Yes, I asked all my neighbors around me, and I did go to the front desk and talk to management. Nobody's turned anything in or seen it.
All right. Well, thanks for confirming all of that. So, based on what you've told me, this does qualify as a never properly delivered situation, which means we can go ahead and open an investigation with the carrier. So, I'm going to file a delivery claim right now and document everything in your customer record.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So a lot happened in that experience. Now, first of all, the reason we pre-record these is you can imagine trying to do a two-way audio discussion live with obviously the a Zoom webinar and its audio requirements. You can get a lot of feedback and so forth. We wanted to save you the headache of getting that feedback. So we pre-record these, but this was a live situation that was recorded between two members of the 3C Logic team to really showcase what the experience might look like if I'm the receiving agent. And if I take a look and sort of a static look at what are some of the components that actually came into play and where did AI contribute to the success of this call. First, in the left-hand panel, you most likely saw that we had live real-time transcription occurring within the ServiceNow space. So first, the call came in, the agent accepted the call. The caller had already been identified, so immediately we're pulling up the relevant case information. So we already had the order number, which of course the agent verified. But then you've got that real-time transcription. And it serves a couple purposes. What you may or may not have caught is as the transcript is going through, the system is trying to understand what is the topic of that discussion in real time. And it's using that topic to then feed in the right-hand panel the knowledge base search box. And the goal there is, the receiving agent didn't have to go looking for an article. It was already automatically presented to them. So based on the search criteria, it went into the ServiceNow knowledge base, archive and found the most relevant set of articles that, it assumes are going to be helpful, for solving that inquiry. And that's what happened. So the agent was able to find quickly the article. There was no time lost there and was able to go through the company policy that helped them decide whether or not the caller was entitled to a refund. Now, when the call is ended, additional things that can happen. One, because you have the real-time transcription, as soon as the call ends, it gets stored, which you can see here in ServiceNow. It gets stored automatically immediately after the call inside of the interaction, inside the case. So there's no delay. We're not taking the audio file, sending it out, having it transcribed, sending it back, and waiting an hour for that transcription to find its way into the ServiceNow platform. It is instant. And the benefit that contributes is AI is great at summarization, but if the AI is only summarizing notes that an agent put in, then you're still depending on the quality of the notes that each agent takes at the end of each call. So one, the agent has to spend time taking notes. Two, you have to hope that the notes are actually of a decent nature for AI summarization to actually contribute value. When you've got real-time transcription that you have in this use case, the real-time transcription becomes that source of truth. Agents don't have to take notes. They can, but if they choose not to, the summarization is going to use the actual transcription, the actual engagement to provide that summarization. And on top of that, you can use things like ServiceNow's Now Assist or Agent Evaluator to then provide that evaluation, that quality assurance, which you can see here at the bottom, which is actually taking that transcript, taking that summarization, and starting to make assessments on what was the quality of the call, what could the agent have done better, what did the agent successfully do, and that creates that feedback loop that I alluded to earlier that can help with coaching the agent, that can help with changing or optimizing processes if this is a recurring issue, or using it as an example for best practices. And all of this is really, comes about from being able to integrate voice AI and contact center as an extension of what you've already invested in on the ServiceNow platform. So it's really AI in some respects feeding AI, right? So you've got the transcript feeding ServiceNow Now Assist, perhaps triggering an agentic AI workflow based on what was collected, but it does so in such a way that it drives the maximum amount of efficiency for your operations, for your agents, and ultimately you're affecting not just the experience of the caller, but the experience of the agent fielding the call, as well as, of course, the impact of your organization and your brand, right? So again, I promised that this was going to be kept to a high level discussion around how you can look at a contact center and voice AI through the lens of your investment in ServiceNow, specifically ServiceNow CRM. So what are some of the key takeaways? Well, if you've joined this conversation because you're interested in trying to figure out what might be, an improvement to your existing contact center solution, you're looking to potentially change the platform you use today, I would suggest that number one, keep in mind that replacing one contact center solution with another is not in itself transformational, but it is an opportunity to take a step back and take a look at how your contact center solution can be woven into the platform that you're already using. And again, today's example is ServiceNow. So if we look at some of the key takeaways, step one is you got to create a clean foundation. And if that foundation already exists in your ServiceNow platform, then you're already well on your way to being able to create the same type of experiences that we demonstrated today, whether it's for voice self-service and call deflection, whether it's optimization of live agent engagements, or the combination of the two. Next, avoid common AI mistakes. I can promise you, a lot of individuals, a lot of enterprises have rushed to adopt AI before they were actually foundationally ready. And the risk factor at that point is, you can break your brand, right? So one of the comments we had earlier on is not whether or not to adopt AI, but to make sure that in the process, it doesn't break your customer relationships, right? So avoid the common mistakes. We gave you examples of what are some of the low-hanging fruit that you can use voice AI for, that customers and consumers are already willing to work with without overextending yourself, and potentially aggravating your customers, even though, of course, the intent is otherwise. And last but not least, make sure you don't forget the human element. We are still social beings at the end of the day. AI can be a force multiplier for those agents, so that you can do more with the same, perhaps down the road, less headcount than you have today. But the goal is really ultimately making sure that they're still part of your customer experience strategy. Without it, most likely you'll be disappointed with the results. So that's what we wanted to cover today. Hopefully this was an educational experience. It gave you an idea of the art of the possible. Again, it was not fully comprehensive. There's a lot under the covers that we can certainly get into in terms of how to build an agent, how to execute some of these workflows, how to administer, what does insight and analytics look like. If you're interested in any of those topics, stay tuned for additional events. We will be hosting many throughout the year, or give us a call or shoot us an email at servicenow@3clogic.com. If there's a specific use case that you want to explore for yourself, we have people standing by, able and willing to have that conversation with you. In the meantime, again, thank you again for joining us, and we certainly welcome the opportunity to host you again in future events. Thank you.